Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Maine Department of Education virtual training hosted by myself, Joe Schmidt, the Social Studies Specialist for the Maine Department of Education. We are lucky to be joined today by Kate Kennedy, teacher at George Stevens Academy. Kate is a Gilder Lehrman History Teacher of the Year award winner for the state of Maine, and a fabulous teacher who's had a wide variety of experiences, including some specialized training in World War I education. I reached out to Kate to help lead and facilitate a discussion around that. And we're also happy and lucky to be joined today by Laura. Laura is a member of the education staff at the World War I Museum. I'm going to turn it over to Kate and Laura for the day. Please keep in mind that we are being recorded, and that if you have a need for a contact hour certificate, that will be posted at the end of the session in the chat box. If there is no additional questions at this time, I am turning it over to Kate.
Okay, so let me pull up some slides. I've also publish these slides, so all the links that I'm going to show you today, you'll be able to go and grab on your own. So the first resources that I have for you are teaching World War I, but trying to be more specific and mindful to distance learning teaching of World War I. The first links are from National History Day, and that's where I've received my specialized training, as Joe called it. I was one of the teachers that was chosen for their World War I Institute last year, so spent the year learning with them, and then 2 weeks in France over the summer visiting different sites, and did a eulogy on a World War I soldier from Maine. So the first link is to their Teaching World War I site, and the first little list that I have are some PD for you to do. I know a lot of teachers have been asked to do professional development by their schools and to keep track of that, so there's some good reading from teachers and experts. Laura's on here, one of her essays there, "We Want You Teaching World War I in the Classroom." So those are just good places to go for your own growth. And then underneath there are middle school lesson modules and then high school lesson modules. And none of these are necessarily specifically tailored to distance learning, but they are easily interchangeable and something that you can modify and put on to Google Classroom or assign through email or whatever system you might be using. So you can just click on them and it brings you right to all the different handouts or whatever that you might give in a distance learning setting. The second link from National History Day is to their World War I page. The first is some more PD that you could be doing. Part of our training was reading a lot of books and then attending webinars like this online through with some experts. So you can click to watch a video series from the current group that is, I don't know what their trip is going to look like at this point, if they're going to get to go or not, but they've been studying away like we did last fall, and then there's our list from our series. So a couple that I just wanted to point out, they're all very good lectures to listen to, but a couple that I really got a lot out of was this Women in World War I, and that's something that interests me, and there was a lot of like little known facts that I wasn't aware of there in that one. And then this one on African Americans in World War I, so just some pieces of history that kind of get left out sometimes. The next link, if I go back, has to do with the silent hero profiles. So this is part of what we did when we were overseas. Was we had done research on a soldier from our home state and then written up a eulogy to give at their graveside. So these are the video eulogies, and then you can actually read the eulogy, or just like a an overview of their life. One thing that I was thinking for this is this would be a really good opportunity as an independent research project for our students to be doing. You know, there are a lot of veterans, not just from World War I, but from lots of wars that they could be studying and doing independent research on and creating their own eulogy for a soldier. There are a lot of links to grave sites overseas, so you can actually separate them out by war and you know, by what branch of the military you want. So they could find somebody from their hometown, or at least from Maine, to do that on. And services like Ancestry.com have opened up for free because of all of this. So, you know, the kids wouldn't even have to pay for that service to be able to do some digging on a soldier. And that could be something that is, you know, meaningful to them and something that they could have for a long time. The last two are a toolkit that they put together, and then lesson plans. The other part of our work with National History Day was creating a lesson plan. So this is the book that we created. And then this is an older one from the previous year. So a lot of these, again, they aren't directly designed to be distance learning lessons, but they're easily modifiable. I know the one that I've created in there to do with women in World War I and the suffragists, and who had more of an influence on getting women the right to vote, could be easily put onto Google Classroom, and kids could get a lot out of it that way. So those are the first two from National History Day. The next link in the slide is from Docsteach, which, if you're not familiar with Docsteach, it's from the National Archives, and they do a lot with primary source documents, and then they have some interactive tools that they use that they call teaching activities. So these are their primary sources on the left that are just straight up primary sources that you would have to develop something. But what I really wanted to highlight were these teaching activities, because these are like ready to go right now online learning activities. So to give you an idea, you click on it on the right hand side, it's going to tell you the grade level and the blooms, and then so you would give the kids this link, and then they could just click start activity, and then it walks them through whatever they need to do. They're all a little bit different, and then it gives you some, you know, questions to think about. And then if you click when you're done, they can actually email you their work directly if that's something that, you know, is available through your school. So they're all a little bit different in what you have to do with the primary source document. There's some that are like matching. There's some where they have to go in and you know, actually dig into the document and see, but it's just a really easy way to get kids working with primary source documents that's already hooked up to online learning. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. The next one is from Sheng, which is one of my favorites, the Stanford History Education group. And then you can scroll down by time period. I'm just going to refresh this. These, again, are not specifically made to be for online learning, but they're really easy in order to change. So, you know, you can click on these lessons, and then it gives you the downloadable materials that you could just download the document and then put that into Google Classroom and easily, you know, have them answer some questions in a Google Doc. So that's a great place to go as well. The last one on the lessons and resources is from the Ohio State University, and they have some different lesson plans, but what I really wanted to focus on were these PowerPoint presentations, because they're ready to go presentations that you could just download and then put onto your online learning platform. Like straight up, and then have them take notes on them or answer questions that you've developed. Or if you wanted to use Zoom, you could be sharing the screen like I'm doing right now, and, you know, click through the slides and do a voiceover. So it's kind of like they're there with you listening to whatever it is that you have to say. So these, I just like to share them with you because they're already done and ready to go, and you don't have to, you know, reinvent the wheel. So those are all of the different links that are on this first slide that you'll get at the end of this presentation. Any questions on any of that stuff before I move on? Okay, so the next slide has to do with games. I am a big user of games in my classroom in any way that I can come up with. But these are all online games for the most part. And so they would be really easy for your students to be doing right now. And so the first one is called Trench Mission. It's this one. And so this one, it tells you, you kind of just walk through. I didn't win this time. So you have to, I'll go to try again. Turn off the sound. So basically you've got a map, but it's the wrong map. So you have to try to get the right map. And so you move your person around with the arrow keys, and you're trying to dodge the rats because they can reduce your energy. And to get more energy, you find the guy carrying the tea. And so you only have a certain amount of time to get the right map. So you're kind of just, you know, walking around, you know, there's the guy with the tea, so I can follow him. And so it's just a kind of a neat way to get the kids thinking and visualizing trenches. I found that that's something that's really hard for kids to get, is like what a trench would be like. Not that this is like entirely realistic, but at least it gets them kind of visualizing it. So something like this, I would assign to kids to play. Oh, just got hit by a rat. And then I would have them write out a summary of what they learned from playing the game. And that kind of gets them, you know, thinking a little bit more deeply. You can have them share a screenshot of the game at the end if they made it or if they didn't, so that you know that they're actually, you know, playing it. Sometimes I have kids who want to, oh, there goes another one, who want to compete against one another or even compete against me. So I'll try to see what the top score is that I can earn and then tell them what I did, so then they could try to, you know, best me. So there's some different ways that you can use that. The second game here, oh, sorry, I've got my little Zoom things in the way. There we go. So the second one's called Over the Top. And this is from the Canadian War Museum. And this one is like a choose your own adventure story, basically. So if you scroll down, it kind of gives you the overall thing. So it's based on some real life experiences of Canadians who were in the war. And one of the neat things that we learned was that there were a lot of Mainers who were wanting to go and fight in World War I before America was involved. And obviously couldn't because we weren't involved. So they fled north to go up into Canada so that they could join the war. So that's kind of a cool tie-in with this Canadian War game as well. So it walks you through, and then at certain points in the story it will stop and it will ask you what you want to do, like a choose your own adventure. So you're basically trying to get through, but there's lots of different pathways. So again, this would be a great one for them to write out what happened to you during the game, what did you learn about it. Do you think it's historically accurate or not? They could be researching the different things that happened to the soldiers during the game. So there's a lot that could be done with this rather than just, you know, click through and, oh, it's a game and it's cute. The last one is called Supremacy 1914, and this is like an online version of Risk. And so this is a little bit more in depth than the other two, and would take a little bit longer, but it's the same kind of deal as, you know, the other games where they're writing up what they got out of it, whether they think it's historically accurate, and that kind of thing. So this can be good for, you know, kids who are not going to be able to sit and read the chapter about World War I all by themselves, you know, to actually get immersed in it and see what it was like. The last link on the games page is to some World War I board games, and I know we can't really be playing board games right now, but I just wanted to point out, because we won't be stuck in our houses forever, is my favorite on this list is the Grizzled game. And a couple things that make this game special. One, it was created by ancestors of actual soldiers of World War I. And then the other thing is it's a cooperative. Oh, I thought somebody said something. It's a cooperative board game. So everybody has to win in order for anyone to win. And so they're not competing against each other, they're helping each other. And that's a really different experience that kids normally have with games. And it can sometimes be hard for them to understand, but I've found really good conversations come out of playing this game. I haven't tried the other ones that are on this site, but again, I'm just a big fan of anytime we can get kids learning through a game. It's almost like we're sneaking the learning on them. They don't know that they're learning, but they are, and then we feel like, haha, I got you. So anyway, I wanted to put that on there. So that's it for games. The last link that I had were some movie ideas. We're all stuck inside. Most kids have Netflix or Amazon Prime or, you know, YouTube, because you can find lots of things on YouTube today. So the first two that I found were, or not that I found, but that I used, were on Amazon Prime. And the first one is American Experience, World War I. And that's a few different episodes. So you could assign different episodes or assign the whole series and maybe have them keep track, keep a diary, or have them research different pieces, or just come up with some questions for them to answer while they're watching. But they do a really good job with it. And it'd be nice with any of these movies, it's something that the whole family could do together. A lot of times I've found with this online learning, like everybody's kind of off in their own corner doing their own thing. And so it'd be nice to have something that everybody could come together and watch a movie, and then, you know, you could do your assignment for it. And there's lots of others on Prime. These are just my favorite that I've pulled from in the past for you. These two movies, They Shall Not Grow Old in 1917, those are newer movies, so they would have to rent those. And I don't like to make that a requirement because not everybody can afford that. But again, this would be really good PD if you could like figure out a way to write it out for your administration that I'm watching 1917 as professional development. You know? That would be awesome. They are terrific. If you're not familiar, They Shall Not Grow Old. Peter Jackson came out with this, and these are links to the trailers, so you can watch those on your own time. But Peter Jackson's the director from Lord of the Rings, and he took all this old archival footage from World War I. And you know, when you watch really old footage, it's kind of like sped up, like they don't look quite right because the film was on a different speed. So he got this huge crew together. They slowed down the speed. They colorized everything. And then they hired lip readers so they could figure out what the soldiers were saying. And then they even went so far as to like track down what village that soldier was from, so that they could find a voice actor from that same village who could do the voiceover to go with. I mean, it's incredible. And I found that kids like it too. Like, it's not just my high schoolers really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. And then 1917, it's brand new. It was nominated for a bunch of Oscars, but just really amazing. So those are more for you than for the kids, but it's a good opportunity. This link here is for a list that I found. It was like the 22 best World War I movies. So I clicked that, and then what I did is I turned it into a distance learning project that's ready to go and ready to be shared with your kids. So that's what this link is. So I want to walk you through what the project looks like. So this you would share with the kids on Google Classroom or wherever, and they can type right into the slides. So what they're going to do is they're going to pick a World War I movie from the list, and then they're going to complete an overview and an analysis of it. So I gave them some suggestions, and when they're done with that, they would basically fill out the rest of the slides with their research, and then I threw in a rubric for you. This is all completely editable, so you'll be able to make it fit for whatever grade level you're at. So what I did is I took the list of the 22 movies, and then I found 14 of them that were available for free somewhere. And then I also put their rating on so that you could get rid of, if you can't have R movies there. So, I told you whether it was YouTube or Netflix or whatever. And then I also gave kids the opportunity, because maybe kids do want to rent 1917 with their family. Like, they should be able to do that if they want to do that. So I just told them, email me if you want to watch something that's not on this list. So for the project, once they've picked one of those, they will do a quick overview, just the title, director, put a picture of the movie, cover the poster there. And then for the setting, tell us specific dates from the movie, as well as the location, what's going on there, a slide for them to put their summary of the plot. And then most of the focus is on them doing some research of the historical accuracy of the movie, and to have them keep track of their sources on the slides. So with this one, is it based on an actual event or person? How do you know? So they would put their answer there, keep track of their sources. Does it show the time period historically accurately? Costume, scenery, props, that kind of thing. Do you see anything that you think is inaccurate or untrue, and then why? And then what could we learn about the time period by watching this? Like, what did they get right, basically? And then lastly, do you think this would be a useful tool in teaching World War I? So it gets them to think about it in kind of a teacher's perspective. And then I just threw a little rubric together, but again, it's totally editable, and you can make it fit your classroom. I just thought it'd be something that, could be used right away if you're at World War I, and be useful for online learning. So that is all the slides, and then this is like the link, and we can talk to Joe afterwards of the best way to get this to you. But now I'd like to have Laura of the World War I Museum share some resources with us as well.
Kate, can you drop that link into the chat box?
Yes, that's a great idea. Thank you.
And then there was a question about how do students watch movies on a platform that their family doesn't have? Are you running into any issues like suggesting like an Amazon Prime movie that all the students might not have?
What I've done is just give them a bunch of options so that they'll have at least something out there, because on the list, like, there was even YouTube, like everybody has YouTube. So I haven't run into any issues, only because I've been giving lots of options.
There was also the note that, just so everybody knows, Ancestry.com is free through Maine's digital library as well. It's just another potential resource.
All right, there is the link.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for Kate before we turn it over to Laura?
Just wanted to say how great it is to see Kate. Last time I saw her, she was marching in a parade in Pasadena. And I only ever see her as a Bitmoji on Twitter, so it's so good.
Yeah.
Good to see you today.
Good to see you too.
Any other questions for Kate? Okay, Kate, I grabbed ownership back from you, but I think you still need to do, oh no, I can boot you off of the.
Right. I can do stop share. Okay, there we go.
Got that. All right, Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you then.
Sounds good. Kate, that was spectacular. I learned new things. I'm excited to get your shortened URL. I'm actually stealing, like, as you're doing this, I'm writing a couple of notes to some friends, to some folks who are working on another project for us. I'm like, oh, you guys should check out this thing that they're doing in Maine right now.
Oh, good.
So thank you. I'm going to queue up my slides here real quick as well. My name is Laura Vogt. I am the Curator of Education at the National World War I Museum and Memorial, which is located in Kansas City, Missouri. We have actually been doing I'm going to just sneak us up here to this little section. Do you guys all see a slide that shows the memorial by chance?
Yep, you're good, Laura.
Gorgeous. All right, so this is where I am generally located, but not right now because you guys are all living on a COVID campus, and it's exciting to be able to be sharing all of these resources in such an interesting and creative way. Basically, we were started back in 1926. We had the largest crowd that any president had spoken to up until that date when we opened. As you can kind of guess by the flags flanking either side, we have a global collection. We started collecting in 1920. So to speak very directly, actually, to Kate's suggestions about 1917, one of, and you'll see it a little bit later here, one of the suggestions that we have is that folks look at, say, the trailers of 1917 and then compare that trailer to real pictures of trenches and these kind of destroyed cities and see how well the set designer did. And just then you don't have to pay for the movie per se, but we give a couple of links of images that people could be looking at and do a comparison. It also fits within the C3 framework of jobs for history, because we legitimately get asked that question all the time. How historically accurate do you think this film was? And I love, Kate, that you had terms of engagement, terms of endearment. Whichever the movie is, with Sweet Amelie, that is every historian's favorite one that I have seen, that I've talked to date. So the fact that you have it #1, spectacular. Great buildings, all sorts of stuff that you can't see right now. And then we've got a mission that says, on the Great Freeze, we've got an inscription that says, "These have dared bear the torches of sacrifice and service. Their bodies return to dust, but their work liveth forevermore. Let us strive on to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations." And using that as a bit of our springboard, we don't necessarily see that World War I should only be taught in US history or world history or AP Euro, but that it can be it can really be a tool in all of the social studies coursework. I've got a couple of examples here that I would love to share. I'm going to show you that more lovely shots of where you can't go right now. One of the examples that we like to talk about is looking at music. There are, not only by looking at the lyrics, but just by looking at the sheet music covers. And we have over 200 in our online collections database, and I'll show you guys how to get there in a little while. But we also just have some lesson plans that are available for you on our education resource database. But you can do a really pretty straightforward comparison of this and the Uncle Sam, I Want You poster, or as we just recently put it out, the Uncle Sam poster with a mask on it. I want you to stay away from everyone around you. I apologize for the beeping. There is some music that you can also download. Again, I'll show you where here in just a second. Like that beautiful song, How Are You Gonna Keep Them Down on the Farm, after they've seen Paris. Whether or not it's looking at the artwork or listening to the music and recognizing that someone like James Reese Europe, who was the first African-American to get a recording contract to play at Kennedy Center, that he was kind of the mover shaker behind the foxtrot. He is the guy who brought jazz to Europe. That when he sings it, this is a different deal. John Philip Sousa, lecture me, write me, editorial eyes at me, and I may be convinced that preparedness is necessary, but sing me a song that contains your message and I will be won over at once. So one of the things that we're suggesting during this era of distance learning is whether or not you are needing to teach your kids to a test and for some level of assessment, or whether you are in a space where you are being charged to just provide enrichment learning, is to engage them with music, to real life examples. We have worked with a musician, his name is Joe Crookston, and he took an object from the collection and wrote a song about it. And created a new piece. So this is something that not only fits for World War I, but you could do it across any kind of any era or the like. Have people go through an online collections database, find a couple of primary sources, even better if they're letters, to take that letter and turn it into some sort of music that can then be shared among their class. Another way was we took, and a good example would be Memorial Day that's coming up. We took original footage, film footage, which you can find on our website, as well as National Archives, and photos from our website. You can also find it on National Archives and Library of Congress. There's so many spectacular resources out there to create kind of a memorial that can be shared on social media. That is part of our everyday work within the museum world. So again, this can fit in a lot of different, it can check a lot of different boxes depending upon what your particular need may be. And I will share this as well. You all will probably have to show me a little bit better how to do it because I didn't put it into Google Classroom, so this may be an after Zoom effect. But here are 3 different assignments that you can give that don't require you to be in the classroom, right? Create a song, create a video, create a playlist. Choose 7 songs from the archive at the Library of Congress and provide some sort of written analysis of the lyrics, and then kind of figure out 7 songs present day that might be parallel, right? There's a lot of fun ways that you can play with this. And then again, kids could be sharing them back and forth with each other, and they're able to show a little bit more about themselves in the process. World War I is unprecedented in so many ways. One of those is within that space of psychology and just the trauma and the impact that was felt not only on those who were in the front lines, but those around the world. Another simple kind of Bellringer type activity, which actually can turn into a much longer activity if you don't do it in a group, is ask your students to just look up the word, etymology, the history of the word basket case, and then search the interwebs. Is there a reliable primary source that supports this concept of basket case, or is this an urban myth? Again, then they can just email that in to you. And I'm not going to give you the answer because I feel like part of my job is if I make anybody Google something afterwards or even while I'm speaking, then I'm doing a good job educating. Right, there's a lot of continued effect of shell shock after 1918 as well. One of those ways, another film, Kate, that can be added to that list, it is in, it's a silent film, it is free and available, it is fairly long, but they actually used World War I soldiers. It was done in 1918, so many of them actually left being on the field to be in this, and some ended up going back, if memory serves me correctly. So it is a really interesting, film looking at the impact of war. It can fit within a psychology classroom or a world history classroom. There we go. One of the additional resources that we have, and again, I'm going to show you all of these here in a little bit, is we created a Great War newsletter. And really what that newsletter does, and it has since 2015, if I'm not mistaken, is that we send out topical lessons and guides, and it's not just our resources. We are really big believers that classrooms need to be looking at World War I as often as possible, and that there are a ton of phenomenal resources out there. So we have actually some of the things that Kate highlighted, Stanford History Education Group, We are great partners with National History Day. Some of the lessons, Kate, that you were talking about, we have integrated onto our online collection, onto our education resource database as well. Library of Congress, there's some really cool stuff that the World War I Centennial Commission has done as well. So all of those get highlighted by topic underneath Understanding the Great War newsletter that goes out every other month. But what is much easier for teachers right now, just go take a look at the archive, and maybe there's something like Medicine and Shell Shock or Remembrance and Gold Star Mothers, particularly as we are starting to plan and think ahead to May and Memorial Day and things along that line. That might be helpful. We also have on our YouTube channel a variety of lectures that are about 50 minutes a piece that could be assigned for that upper level. You can tell which ones are the most popular because they have 50,000+ views. So generally that's always a good sign. And you can almost guarantee that that is one that is already being used several times over by classrooms across the nation. Again, another suggestion that we've worked with teachers around the nation is having folks look at letters and do a primary source analysis. And you can find those on our online collections database. This, again, how accurately portrayed is the media clip from 1917. You can justify your answers using 3 archive photos of whether or not your student felt that it was good or not good. You can just screenshot them. It's pretty simple and straightforward. You can do a current event Bellringer. Look at 3 major online media outlets: CNN, Fox, Foreign Policy, New York Times, Al Jazeera, BBC, whatever is your favorite, or let your student choose. And then they also have to explain to you why that's a justifiably reliable media outlet source, and have them see if they can find a news story that's connected to World War I, or if they can see that's another question, pardon me. There is a outlet talking about the longest war engagement of the United States. In this conversation, I would just go for the, can you find a news story that's connected to World War I? This is an assignment that I have been doing for at least 8 years. And there is not a single day that I cannot find at least one story. And you guys, right now, it is so simple because COVID, it's a thing. And you can do this really nice comparison with the flu pandemic of 1918, which was made significantly worse because of World War I. It wasn't that, I mean, it really was this transferring of soldiers around the world that really caused such devastation. Again, a quick look at our YouTube channel. You can, of course, be taking a literary take on the Great War. Again, Kate mentioned a phenomenal resource, which is actually Peter Jackson, who is a huge World War I fan. He actually started a museum in New Zealand, the Omaka Aviation Heritage Center. He was on their Centennial Commission. He actually made his set designers read a book about Tolkien's experiences in World War I. And so you can see some of the impact even on the costume design and the like as they go through. But finding some of those short comparisons. Again, I'm going to show you where some of those are. Online, I'm going to come back and actually just show this to you because I did not realize Zoom is not going to really allow me to toggle between tabs. So this is my mistake, my apologies. There is a geography effect as well. Environmentally, here's some beautiful photos. You can find most of these on our website. Environmentally, you can talk about the impact that the war had on fossil fuels, in conservation and the food effort, and the amount of metal and ammunitions that are still left in the soil. So we've got 4 lectures that are already there. We've got a new resource coming out about that environmental impact. So if you've got science teachers that need to be doing this level of integration, or you all are trying to do that level of integration so that it is not adding more upon more with your students, that might be one way to move forward. Again, some really great pictures. There are lots of different ways and beautiful imagery to make World War I seem as present as it actually is, as relevant as it very much is. And giving students that freedom to go through and find some of their images that they think are the most moving, even asking them to pull 10 that they find to show the diversity of the war, and to create a label that would go with it, either for a physical exhibition, in preparation for a physical exhibition, or for some level of digital exhibition. All right, so education resources, again, we'd love for you to use www.theworldwar.org. That is our website. If you go right here to where it says learn, and I'm going to do this here in a second, you're going to find a lot of resources. We have over 200 lesson plans written by teachers from around the nation, including things like Animals at War. That actually won a curriculum, an award for curriculum from the state of Arkansas. Teenage Assassins, who doesn't love that title for a lesson? We've got an interactive photo that's really kind of aimed more for that K-5, but helps people see primary source analysis. Most of these are going to be Common Core aligned and the like. We have oral histories online. That includes that first one, Alfred Ireland. He talks about what it felt like to be in a gas attack. Then we also have a variety of folks who were in various, talking about the African American experience, that are included in there as well. Again, that Understanding the Great War newsletter. It is a bi-monthly e-newsletter, though we are going to be sending out a couple of editions more quickly to try to help meet the need that has been expressed. Again, it is topical. If you're looking at the Paris Peace Conference, we have a lot of different activities that are already linked. And again, they're not necessarily all authored by our museum and memorial. Like the Great War YouTube channel is a spectacular resource. American Battle Monuments Commission, Imperial War Museum, National History Day, MacArthur Memorial, they've got some really great stuff too. So I cannot recommend this newsletter enough, going back to that archive and seeing if there is something that fits for what you're trying to teach. We've got a lot of resources already connected there. Then of course our online collections database, we have over 45,000 different pieces that are included that are specific to World War I. Many of them unique to our, most of them unique to our collection. We certainly have single core footage, which you're going to find in a variety of spaces as well. It doesn't make it any less cool that you find it in a variety of spaces. But you can find, you can go in and type in Maine. You may even be able to find your, this, by the way, not Maine, completely other side of the United States. This is California. But it is always a delight to find what that hometown connection might be. We have online exhibitions, and you can find those at theworldwar.org Explore. I'll show it to you real fast. We have an introduction to the museum and memorial. We've got a curator's tour of the main gallery. We've got an architectural tour of the outside. We walk you through our trenches and explain the difference between a trench, a German trench, a British trench, a French trench, and kind of that technology of war within that. There's an A to Z guide, visual persuasion, which is posters in World War I, and a look at November 11th. Why November 11th, kind of what is historically important around it, how that ends up becoming our Veterans Day and the like. We have Google Arts and Culture, things like Home Before the Leaves Fall, explaining that the war wasn't actually super fast as they thought it was going to be. Online, we've got Make Way for Democracy, looking at the African American experience in World War I. This is a super fun activity for those of you in particular who are looking for some of those enrichment opportunities. Warfare is a culinary exploration of World War I, and we worked with a teacher in California back in 2014 who created for his class, he was teaching ESL and drama, and he created cooking lessons for kids using the World War I cookbook that we have digitized here, and encourage them. And it's stuff that is going to be in your pantry. There's a really great corn fritter recipe in there that literally it's like it's corn. You could use any vegetable. It's flour and it's oil. And as long as you salt it heavy enough, it's really pretty tasty. So there's a way that you could be doing this that, again, and Kate, I loved your suggestion there of bringing that family together around some of these lessons. And that also might even be helpful with these families that are so busy right now. Having the kid kind of make something or look at something that might be, again, an enrichment activity. I know that may not be a proper assessment opportunity for all schools. Just to make you troll a little bit. I mean, it's getting close to coffee time. They're great recipes, and those are delicious. We also have an exhibition about the Christmas truce. One of the stories about the Christmas truce is, did they go out and play soccer? And they can look through and look at the primary sources. And then you could even, for extra credit, have your kid go out and play soccer, and take a picture of them going out and figuring out. And if they don't have a soccer ball, that makes it even more historically accurate. Again, so giving them those reasons to be getting out and to be playing. I think we all know that feeling now of when you're trapped in front of the computer. It does start to get to you after a little while. So there are ways that you can be doing this level of integration. We've got an online interactive timeline. And again, this resource database, Kate hit some of my favorites already. National History Day, Stanford History Education Group, Pritzker Military Museum and Library, National Archives, Facing History and Ourselves. They also have some really great stuff. AFS, really, I think almost, really important to today and our current situation. We have an online exhibition about volunteering. And part of the way we have to volunteer at the moment is by not going out and not doing, but by learning in history about what other people did do in these times, how they chose to pursue that greater common good, is a wonderful thing. So you can take a look at that, and AFS has authored some really beautiful lessons that are also connected here in the resource database. Later on, if you take a look at Gilder Lehrman, they've got some really interesting teacher seminar pieces as well on their website. We had a Gilder Lehrman teacher seminar set up for this summer. It has since been canceled, but to also speak to another one of our great partners, National History Day. Tomorrow, when we're recording this, they are doing a webinar on enrichment learning, but they've got a 5-part series about distance learning that is really great. They highlighted some folks from Smithsonian. They've got National Archives doing distance assessment and some other things. So highly suggest that. There's a Zoom opportunity to participate live, but they will also have it recorded and on their website. I believe it's just nhd.org. I could be wrong. Google will correct me when you type that in. Online, we do have a discussion group. If you're interested in doing this, I'm happy to walk anybody through this. At any point in time, when you watch this, you can email me at education@. You can do a Zoom call like this and have kids do an online discussion for about an hour or so, looking at what it felt like to be in 1915 and what role the United States should play in international conflicts. It's not really a debate, but you can get everybody, A, doing a little bit of reading, but B, they can get some of that face time as well and kind of that group conversation. The challenge for this, of course, is that it requires some level of synchronicity, and people would all need to be able to be on their devices at the same time. So I don't know that that's the best fit for most of you, but for some of your organizations, it may be exactly the type of thing that you're looking for. And again, I can walk you through all of that. We've got some other stuff online, but I want to be good to our time as well. Online, coming out next month is a new resource called How World War I Changed America. It is going to be focusing on Native Americans, women, African American experience, citizenship and civil liberties, why the United States joined the war. There are 3 other topics that are not off the tip of my tongue right now. It has 5-minute or less videos, it has podcasts, and it has 2 lesson plans per topic, one created by National History Day, one created by Gilder Lehrman. All of that, I know it said June, but we have put the gas down on it to try to make sure that this gets out in time for teachers this year when they really need it. So that's going to be coming down the pipeline. You can also go to scholastic.com. If you type in Scholastic Great War, we have created with Scholastic content and curriculum. It includes online assessment activities and some web quests for both the 5th through 8th and the 9th through 12th grade level. And we can take you on a virtual tour of the museum and memorial and going through these topics: the beginning of the war, life in the trenches, World War, U.S. entry, and the like. You can't live stream any of our events right now. This slide should not be in there. Another activity that you might be able to do, and it may not pertain to our museum, but I think it's a really fun enrichment activity, is to have your kids, if they've got mobile devices or the like, they could go around and look through their communities. Hopefully they're outside being able to go for a walk. Maybe it's their neighborhood, and see if they can find an image and take an image that they could then compare with the archive that they have access to. We do have some interesting stuff out of Maine, but this any archive. And then this is just a simple Instagram of just comparing the two images. So again, it may not necessarily be just World War I. It might just be some sort of activity in the future, or for a different grade level. Again, we've got some really great partners that we've been working with: United States World War I Centennial Commission, Scholastic, Gilder Lehrman, National History Day. And I have really quickly gone through that whole thing. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Let's see. And I will go back through and show you just those video links. But while I do that, Joe, are there questions for me?
No, we are going to be out of time. I need
Okay.
to close this one down. My next one starts at 12, so I have to get that one in. I did drop into the chat room. I did not see any questions in the chat regarding that. All the participants, I do have your link in there for your contact hour certificate. Remember, the important thing is whatever email address you put in, that's what will email you. The email you'll get the certificate. Whatever name you put in, that's the name that will go on it. It auto-generates. You have to make sure that you answer the last question correctly. The question asks, did you complete the webinar? And if you say yes, then you get 100% and it will send you the certificates. Sonia wants to know if we can get links to the presentations. Laura says yes. Kate, you've included the bit.ly.
Yeah, my link's in there.
Okay. Laura, is that something you'll just send to me then? Oh, yeah, okay. So if I will only have your email address if you complete the survey. So I'm putting it in there one more time. I see so far 4 people have completed it. And so what I will do is, after I hear from Laura, I will go back through the emails on this feedback list, and I will go ahead and attach Laura's presentation to that. Very, very quickly, does anybody have a last second question for Laura while we keep the chat open?
And I will stick that into a Google Drive link, so if people want to even just steal the slide, they can just steal a slide and not have to recreate anything like that. So we'll make it super simple.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you, Laura, for coming and helping me out.
Thank you. My pleasure, pleasure. Thank you, guys. It was really nice to see everybody, and good luck in the trenches.
Thanks, everyone. It was a great presentation today. Thanks.
Thank you. If anybody's interested, Keith Mahoney and C-SPAN are on our next channel over in 2 minutes. Thank you again, Laura. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks,
Have
Joe.
a wonderful day, everybody.